Hey, yo, what's up, guys? My name is Sahith, and this is the start of my Colts podcast. This is the very first episode, and this episode was meant to be the preview for the Colts Titans game. So, recently coming off a overtime win thriller against the Packers. Titans also coming off an overtime win against the Ravens. The over under is 51, I believe, and last game I believe was pretty high scoring for the Colts at least. They had 34, which I was happy to see because I'm a Colts fan. I don't know if I mentioned that before. And Titans had 17 points. They did have an opening drive touchdown, and then they had another touchdown, I think, in the second quarter to Jonnu Smith. And then nothing really happened to them from there. And that was also at home too, which should have come in their advantage. I don't know how many fans were at that game, so that might have been a difference in the game. But one thing that Tennessee has going for them and had going for them and still is going for them is Derrick Henry, who actually was the one that sealed that overtime win against the Ravens on a rushing touchdown for like 20 plus yards or something like that. And so, which was pretty impressive. He is now the leading rusher in the league. Meanwhile, the rushing yards for the Colts, the leading rusher is Jonathan Taylor with only 518 yards compared to that of Henry's, which is 1079 yards. Jonathan Taylor, however, does have four touchdowns and has recently been brought back into the Colts rotation more and more. We saw that in the game against the Packers. Packers. Colts was a intense matchup. Game sealed with that MBS fumble. That was stripped by Julian Blackman. So Tennessee and Indy, this game is the deciding factor for the division title for the AFC South. Colts did win the first matchup, so if Colts happen to pull out this win against the Titans, they will they will win all the tiebreakers they have against Tennessee moving forward. And so the FBI is the ESPN Football Power Index says Titans chances of winning are 47.7% and Colts is 51.9%. And also according to ESPN, I don't know what sources this is based off of, but if Colts win this game, their chances of winning the division is 77%. Meanwhile, if Titans win this game for some reason, their chances of winning the division is 85%, which is much higher than 77%. Um, so this basically is a must win for both teams. But don't be surprised if Tennessee loses, because Colts do have the second best rushing attack in the league. Okay, so for the injury report, we have so many key players for both teams that might not play. Ben Jones, the starting center, is questionable. Adam Humphries, Adoree Jackson, and Michael Pruitt. Let me know if I'm pronouncing the name right. All three of them are out. Ben Jones is questionable. Roger Staffel the third is also questionable. Meanwhile, Colts, as a Colts fan, it pains me to say this, but we're not looking good. Actually, we are. We might still do well, but many key players such as Danico Autry, second best defensive lineman, DeForest Buckner, our best defensive lineman, and Bobby Okereke, all three of them are out. Philip Rivers, Zach Pascal, Anthony Walker, and Kari Willis are all questionable. I think we saw Anthony Walker start grabbing at his arm in last week's game. He may have aggravated something, but hopefully he should be good to go. In my opinion, I think Darius Leonard and Anthony Walker are one of the best linebacker duos in the league. That's just my opinion, though. So it would be nice to have Anthony Walker start this game. We have Quentin Nelson listed as questionable and Ryan Kelly listed as questionable. but I'm not really worried about them. They've been listed questionable since like week 2 or something like that. Um, and so I would not be surprised at all if they did not show up in the if if it listed them healthy by tomorrow's injury report. This injury report is um is listed as of today, November 27, 2020. Now, on the statistical side of things, this game will ultimately come down to the rushing aspects of both teams. By rushing aspects, I mean the Titans' rushing offense, which, as mentioned before, composes of Derrick Henry, probably the best rushing back in the league. I say rushing back because there's many running backs that don't particularly rush, but might be better than Derrick Henry. Some arguable ones might be Alvin Kamara, CMC. Titans actually have listed actually have the fifth best rushing offense in the league. I'm going by yards per game here, in which case Titans would be average about 151.1 yards per game. Meanwhile, on the Colts, on the other side of things, their defensive stats um uh compose of them being the third best rushing defense in the league, behind only the Buccaneers and the Saints. Colts only averaging about giving up 89.2 yards per game. You can see however the only rushing problem I saw, the only big rushing performance they gave up was indeed against Tennessee, against at home a couple weeks ago, as we previously mentioned, and this time without key pieces like DeForest Buckner, who tested positive and for COVID, and Danico Autry, who also tested positive for COVID. This game will probably uh be leaning towards more Rick Henry's ability to carry the entire defense on his back for like 10 yards. And because of those two key pieces missing. Keep in mind, we Colts do have the breakout stars in Julian Blackmon, who is a top candidate for Defensive Player of the Year, Defensive Rookie of the Year. We also have Darius Leonard, one of the best linebackers in the league, might be the best linebacker in the league. That's up to for y'all to decide. We have Xavier Rhodes, who has who's a uh, defensive back, who we will get into Tennessee's receiving core. They're no joke, but so is Colts passing offense. Um, so key pieces like that. We also have Grover Stewart. We have Stallsworth, who's a replacement for Buckner. We'll see how he does this game, and we also have Muhammad, who also has been doing extremely well for us. So back more towards the passing side of things. For the Titans, as I was gonna mention, their receiving core is no joke. They have Corey Davis, who has 549 a yard receiving yards for the season. We have then they have AJ Brown, the next leading receiver for them, with 540 receiving yards. And then you got Jonnu Smith. With 338 passing yards. You got Anthony Ferguson, Adam Humphries, and Cameron Batson, who are also in that little receiving rotation of theirs. But uh it's mostly revolved around Smith, Brown, and Davis. Meanwhile, for Colts, their leading receiver would be Zach Pascal. He had a couple of receptions versus the uh he had a couple of receptions versus the Packers. He currently has 384 receiving yards for the Colts, and that's actually the leading receiver. Um Then they also have T.Y. Hilton, who has 327 receiving yards. They have Mo Ali Cox with 309 receiving yards. Michael Pittman with 302 receiving yards. Naeem Hines with 296, and Marcus Johnson with 255. So even though they don't have the more elite receiving core that Tennessee does, they do have multiple different factors that contribute to their receiving their passing offense being stronger than most people expected. Most people kind of focus on Colts passing defense and rushing defense. This is their entire defense in general. But Colts passing offense is actually second in the league in yards per game, behind the Chiefs, of course, with the elite and godly Patrick Mahomes, Chiefs are currently averaging 304.4 passing yards this season, and Colts are just not very far behind with 293.6 passing yards. So people sort of sleep on that aspect for the Colts, which is the offensive side. Um, More of the offensive side for they're currently the 23rd passing offense with only 228.3 passing yards per game. And they're behind the most average teams too, like 49ers, Bengals, Panthers, Vikings, Broncos, Jaguars. So there's some lackluster aspects in that part of the offense. Mostly their rushing offense is the only one consistent. Now on the defensive side of things, if we're looking at uh passing wise, Colts are the fourth best passing offense, so Ryan Tannehill will definitely have a trouble driving the ball downfield through the air as they did last week, as he only had like 140 around that area of passing yards and one touchdown, I believe. Meanwhile, for Tennessee has the 27th best passing offense, worst passing offense in the league. They allow 262.8, while Colts are getting 292, 293, somewhere around that. So Titans will definitely have some trouble trying to contain Pascal Hilton, the previously mentioned receivers. And I forgot to also mention on the rushing side of things as well. They actually have the 10th best rushing offense of the league getting 121.3 rushing yards per game. While Tennessee is they're the 20th worst passing offense and passing rushing defense in the league. So defensive side of things, for the Titans, Colts definitely have the advantage of. So this is a difficult matchup because Colts basically have the advantage on offense because of the lack of defense that Tennessee has. And they sort of also have the advantage on the defensive side of things. Maybe in stopping Derrick Henry, maybe the game is at home. Maybe the Colts defense will have a better chance of stopping Henry than it did last time. So, I'd say this is a pretty favorable side for the Colts in order to get this dub, or win, I should say. Colts should not have a difficult time taking this dub at home. Um, as I mentioned, Derrick Henry is the only big name threat to this offense. There are the people like AJ Brown and Corey Davis are scary, but as long as the Colts defense gets pressure on Ryan Tannehill, they should have a hard time making throws. Because this defense is very scary coming from a Colts fan. Bro, I really hope we win this game. This is a must-win game for us. Um, this is a must-win game for us. So we go 8-3. The first time we went 8-3 in a long time, I remember ever since 2015 to 2016 season was was the start of the downhill for the Colts because Angel Luck was playing through an injury. We went 8-8, 3 straight seasons in a row. Then we went 4-12. Then Angela came back from torn shoulder injury, which absolutely no one knew if he was gonna play the same again. And then he leads his team from they start the season 1-5, then they go up 10-6. And then the next year, and then we lose to the Chiefs in the playoffs in the divisional round. And then next year we go to a back to a losing record under Jacoby Brissett to a 7-9 record. Now an 8-3 record could really boost the confidence of this young Colts team. There's questions whether about Phillip Rivers is gonna play next year. He's been playing with the last few games well, but we'll see if he keeps it up. If he keeps it up, I believe Colts will be starting to consider giving him another year maybe. But I heard he wants to coach his son, and he wants to coach high school football for his son, so he might decline the offer to play another year. In that case, the starter of the Colts will come down to a QB battle. I believe will come down to a QB battle between Jacoby again and Jacob Eason, who was the fourth round pick by the Colts from Washington, who has a extremely strong arm and can sling that ball. So we'll see how this season turns out. But I'm really excited for this young Colts team, and this should be a good divisional game for us to watch for us Colts fans. So for the shoe, and I'll see you next time, most likely after the game. I see you guys.